Hi, I am looking for my pen. I am super happy to be here for our Feather Along lesson 2. So I am going to get some comments turned on so I can see what we have going on, and let me know last week's feather lesson went for you. And if you here, I'm going to pull up some comments. Let's see. Hello, Elizabeth Sandal. It's good to see you here. Yay. Hi, everybody. Sorry, best day today. Trudy, you're behind already. Well, it's live online, so you can watch it whenever you can. Hi, Hillary. I owe you an email. Excuse me. Let me try to get the coughing slowed down a bit. So let me know how some of the quilting went last week, if you got any in. I know, life asked me, I know life happens. Hello, Amelia in Australia. It is Thursday morning. I had plans, excuse me, to have a new quilt quilted for you this week, but I didn't make it off the couch, as you'll hear the coughing's going. So tonight might be pretty short talking today. But let's just start showing you. Last week's lesson was all about coming up with the shape of what feather is. I know some people were talking about forming a half of a heart and that it worked well for them. Excellent. There's no wrong way to make a feather. I'm just giving you a few hints if what you've tried hasn't worked. So please do whatever you. And hopefully, working through these strip quilts I've been giving you, the one strip pattern and the strip pattern, the cutie pattern that I showed last week, is giving you some practice so that you can work on the feathers. They're not all going to be lovely, but you got to do them. Feathers are not something you can read about, walk, and study, and then miraculously do it. It's something you put your hands on the fabric, or your hands on the machine, and start quilting. Just kind of the way it goes. Your feathers are not going to start out less than. My granddaughter is learning, and she's not excellent at it right now. And I'm not going to say to her, "Wow, I don't think you're ever going to be able or run. You're pretty bad at this," because she's going to get up and fall down and get up and fall down, and that's just the way it happens. So let's see, Sarah, you're getting a video lag, an audio lag. You're not used to the whole Facebook Live being restreamed. Restream gives me a chance to show pictures, and it gives me a chance to draw on the screen, which is what I was looking for. Your feathers are curled toes. Okay, that's a start. That's a start. We can work on that. And by the way, feather line don't often look very good, in my opinion. So maybe you'll like them better if you stitch them on a curve. So yes, toddlers riding bikes. I mean, just think of anybody who's learning something new. You don't say, "Wow, that was really bad." You should try better. You know, a kid's first attempt at an instrument when they're playing hot cross buns or Mary Had a Little Lamb or Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. I don't know what they play in Australia, but those are the biggies in the United States that just go right through parents' heads. And I had a son who was a music major, so and a music teacher. So I went through his learning to quilt, to play concerts, all the way through when he was teaching and teaching people to sing. It's not always so pretty. Hi, Sherry. I'm glad you're here. Okay, so let's see what this week's is. I do not want to end this stream. I don't know what button I accidentally hit. Okay, so let me share. Come on. A window. Do I have one? I think it's this one. Hello, I think this is the one that I want. Yes, that's the one that I want. So this is the project that is in lesson 2 of the feather class. Now the feather class is online. The link is in the description somewhere around the video here. Sorry, I've got to turn off my comment dings. Excuse me one second. Mute. Mute. Okay, so let's see where I'm at now. Okay. So these are the feathers, and they are stitched on a curve. Now, what's fun about a curve is that what is on the left side of the curve and what is on the right side of the curve don't have to be the same. So that's pretty exciting. Well, Sarah, maybe it's time to make another one. Someone might need a gifty. So these are the feathers, and I stitch and then sew pockets over it. And I remember some going, I can't sew pockets over it because it looked so good. But I wanted to lower the pressure with them. So let me check more comments. So those are the, and let's talk about, now this is in the class. You can watch it, but let me get my pen going. Okay, so when I'm making a curve, what I typically do, is this going to be on? Red, 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 maybe not. There we go. So I draw a spine, and then I'm going to work. If I'm working on a home sewing machine, I'm going to work from the top to the bottom. A long arm sewing machine, I'm going to work left to right. If I'm working on a stationary long arm, I work in any direction I like. So here, I'm going to make my feathers. I'm not sure what's happening. Let's go to a bigger page. I'm not sure what is going on with my marker. So I'm going to go up and curve. Good gravy. Could you knock it? I need it to stop playing with me. Different color. See if that helps. No. Let's try the fur. Draw with touch. Okay. This is not going, I'm really upset about that. So I am going to stop sharing this and am going to close it. And I'm going to save it. And I'm going to reopen it. See if it got better. Let me share this. I apologize for the technical difficulties. Stuff I can never get ahead of. So let's see. Share screen. Window. This one. Share. Okay, let's see how the comments. Barbara, I'm glad you're here. Oh, so let me hit my pen. I hit draw. So I'm going to go up and around. Good gravy. This is just going to kill me. So there's the feather. And then I'm going to make another one. But remember, you can stop in the middle of each one. I'm so less than thrilled with working right now. So one feather at a time. Now, one thing I want to mention is that when I do this type of a feather, I call this a long arm feather. You can call it bob if you want. None of these have any real names. My feathers are all the same size, top to bottom. So I may take a chalk in a guideline so that my feathers have a guardrail. And this way, I may have 4 feathers over here, but only 3 feathers over here. And remember, I go this way, and then I go this way. So let's see, is this going to let me do some work? It seems to, I don't want to jinx it. So that's how I stop. I make my feather up and around, up and around, up and around, up and around. And once I'm done, I'll make a knot and then come back and do the other side. And I do not match the feathers on one side of the spine to the feathers on the other side of the spine. I just make the feathers the height they're supposed to be and let the width figure itself out. So that's how I work on these feathers. Now again, sometimes I take a 1-inch ruler and say, oh, okay, so I'm going to make a 1-inch line here, and I put this on the spine, and then make a mark, and then put the ruler on the spine and make a mark. Put the ruler on the spine and make a mark. It doesn't have to be perfection, but I do like to have a general guideline of how big they are. Um, Questions on forming that type of feather? When you're forming feathers on a curve, you will always get more feathers on the outside of a curve than you will on the inside of a curve, because the feathers on the outside of the curve have more place to go. So this is bigger than that, so I don't have as many places to put feathers in there. That's why I don't try to match them from side to side. So hopefully that made sense. Did you have any questions on that type of feather? So I'm going to stop sharing, go back to where I can see your face um, and see my screens. Let's see what we got going here. Good. Okay, that seems that it worked. Now, I have a few other things to talk to you about with this type of feather. This is a fun one to play with. Now, when I use this looks to me very traditional. It looks more like a hand quilted feather because it's all the same size. When my feathers go big and go all the way out to the edge, they look very contemporary and not very traditional. I love them both. I love all my feathers equally. But this one, I typically do background quilting with. Let's see. Oh, good. I'm glad it's making sense. So let me go back and share the paper again. See, my computer was just feeling a little sluggish like me today. I had a good morning and things started going sideways, which isn't bad. Okay, so whenever I draw this feather, let's get rid of this. Nope. Let me find a feather. Okay, so once I've stitched my feather here, and then I stitch my feather here, it's typically in the middle of a border area. So what I typically do, let me get a different color marker, draw red. So I typically have drawn a line in the center of my border. And I like to have the same amount of curve above that center line and below that center line. Now I can do that by using a wave ruler, which some of you may own these already, you've seen them. I can also do this with a circle ruler. So if I have a ruler that's a circle or a half circle, I can take a piece of um, painter's tape and say, okay, that's how much of the curve I'm going to use. So I am going to, let's go back here. I'm going to go and put this blue line on my center line and say that's how much curve goes above. Then I'm going to turn this upside down, put the blue line on the spine again, and stitch that down. So it's the same curve above and below the spine. So that's how I do my spines. And the last thing I want to show you about my spine is this week, if I were quilting this week, I did start knitting this week yesterday. So I'm pretty excited to at least get my hands doing something. I finally have the energy to do that much. So if I were quilting this week, I would have made Picnic Patch, which is my favorite cutie quilt that I didn't design. But I've probably made 50 of them. I love quilting this. And these feathers go in the border. Let's see. Sarah, the curved line is the red line, not the blue line. Correct. So whenever I am making this quilt, let's find a middle. So here's my middle. And then I can take either my curve, a half circle, a circle, a wave ruler, and then I can, whoop, I don't like that size. Let's make a smaller one. Okay. And I can stitch my curve above, below, above, below, above, below, above, below, above. And since it doesn't have to match in the corners, I'm really happy. So I just start it, and where it ends, it ends. I feel like I'm playing in a casino. Around and around and around it goes. So then I come and I can take that red line again and mark my inners and outers. Come back and quilt it. Here's my feathers. And work all the way around, and then work all the way around here. And then once I'm done, I typically do some background quilting because when I do feathers, I typically use a higher loft batting, and that leaves a lot of extra bubble to the quilt in these unquilted areas. So what I may do on those, like I did in the class, is I may echo around the end of it. This is what I did on the sample in the class. And then I believe I just did up and downs, like switchbacks as a background design here. So that's one way to do the background. Oops. Let's see. Another way to do the background is what I do an awful lot is I come in and meander it. Meander, loops, whatever's easy for you. And fill in the background. That way, the feathers here that are big and not quilted, that big feather with that wool batting in puffs up. And then when I've quilted the background, it pushes it down. So the background is flat and the feathers pop up. And that's why the quilts look so yummy with feathers on them. Amelia, the blue line is the spine. Yes, the red is the center of the fabric. Yes, thank you. I marked that in ahead of time. So once I finish that border, if I'm on a long arm, I will come and I will do the same thing down this side, but I will stitch feathers that far and then quilt, and then I will stitch feathers that far and then quilt, and then I will stitch feathers that far and quilt. And then when I get to the bottom, now my feathers went in this direction, and now they're going to go in this direction because I like my borders to look like they are feathered wreaths. So I like them to look like they're continuous, even if they're not meeting in the corners. So these feathers are going to go this way, and then when I'm done, I'll quilt those. If, however, you are working on a home sewing machine or stationary long arm, just quilt one border at a time and keep turning the quilt. For long arms, you do have the option of quilting your top border and then quilting your bottom border at the end of your quilt, leaving the sides unquilted. Then you can unpin the quilt from the frame, turn it 90 degrees, and then quilt the new top and the new bottom. Hopefully that makes sense. Carol, what am I marking with on the quilt? Sometimes I mark with a chalk pencil. Sometimes I mark with a blue water erase marker. Sometimes I mark with a piece of chalk. Whatever works. Sometimes I don't mark much because if I know how big my border is here and I'm using a wave ruler, I can put the wave ruler knowing that, oh, if I put the wave ruler um, right against the edge, like this is my wave ruler, and I know that if I mark my wave ruler to line it up in the binding area, that my line will be directly in the center. So I mark as little as I have to, put a blue marker, and then I just wet the quilt and it'll go away. Blue marker, I can use chalk and what's it called? An ultraviolet light. I think that's what I'm going to put in the Ask the Bobbin Turns this week, is my ultraviolet light trick. Let's see, do we have any comments coming through? Live chat. So hopefully that gave you some answers to how to do this. Let me turn this off. Stop sharing. I'll go back to where I can see the main screen. Hi, everybody. Did that give you a little bit of a confidence of how to start with your curved feathers this week? I give you practice with purpose patterns so that it makes you put your thread on the fabric, and then you get to make them wrong. Hi, Sarah, it's working. You would love the ultra? Okay, I will do that, Carol. So I'm glad that made sense. Hopefully that's going to give you some confidence to take the second lesson in the class, or go back and work on the first one if you're not done with that yet, because these are staying online. I'm not taking them down. That you can just keep working on them. Next week's feather, let me see. I have it written down. Next week's feather is feathers that fill the whole area. So the feathers aren't the same size. They're a little different. And these are fun for me when I want to do something quick. Because if I'm doing that border that I showed you, I mark the center line, and then I stitch the spine, and then I stitch this feather, and then I stitch this feather, and then I stitch this background, and then I stitch this background. So I've gone down that quilt like 5 times. If I'm using a flexible feather, I stitch the spine, and I stitch my feathers, go all the way out to the seam line. And I do the same thing on the other side, and I only do it 3 times. It looks more contemporary. It doesn't look very traditional, but I happen to like it. It's probably my favorite, if I'm allowed to have favorites. Let's see. Do I ever use the iron off ink markers? Are you talking about, what are they called? The heat ones. The erase, the ones you rub. I can't remember the name of them because I've been coughing and my brains are rattled. But no, I don't. I do have pictures of that fabric that I have drawn on for a Craftsy class that I filmed in 2015. And then it is that marker that I used, which I can't remember the name of yet. Friction. Thank you very much. So the friction pen actually is eating the ink, eating the dye off the fabric. So I can show you that. I don't use those. It's your quilt. You do whatever you want, but I can tell you I've had less than stellar results. Oh, they don't always come out? No. And also 7 years later, they can eat the dye. Oh, Sandal, I'm so glad you like the flexible feathers. I like them very much too. Um, Carol, you tested the friction markers at Guild. Uh, they may come off now, but if you get it cold, like I've seen a quilt hang on a wall here in the Northeast US when it's really cold outside and the cold air leaches through the wall, that the friction marker comes back as brown on there. I've seen it if people ship a quilt, put a quilt in the car. Um, so I've seen that happen, and then on my own, I've seen it that the dye is getting eaten away. Yeah, I've seen that happen with the cold for sure. So, Carol, you tested at Guild. Did anyone find a reason to use the markers? Like I have these markers here. These are Crayola Super Tips. And I know some people use these to mark with. These are waterproof markers. I use these for my journaling and drawing and stuff. I don't quilt with these because we don't know what this does to fabric. And I don't want to find out 10 years from now that the dye is getting eaten away. You put the marked fabric in the freezer and it was bad. Yeah, I've had people ask me, who would ever put a quilt in the freezer? And no one may on purpose, but you may put it in the basement or in the mail or in the car because there are places that get cold in the world and it can cause problems with your quilts. What happened? Like I've quilted for famous quilters and magazines and books and stuff, and I don't want Victoria Finley Wolf showing up with a quilt that I quilted for her in Belgium, and then while she's flying it over there, it was in a luggage area that was cold, and then brown marks show back up on it. So I'm risk averse when it comes to doing stuff like that. Clover makes a water soluble pencil in pink, white, and blue. You have a set of them. I do like the white pencil, but I do like the white marker. I like the Clover white marker. I'm a little hesitant of anything with dye in it, with ink in it. Pigment, that's the word I'm looking for. If you use Crayola markers on the wrong side but never the front, no complaints, I would do that as well. I would use the friction to mark my half square triangle lines as well because I'm going to cut on that line and it doesn't matter, but it never goes on the front of my quilt, ever, ever. Um, Hopefully, this gave you um, some hints to get started. I'm so glad you brought your questions for me tonight. I'm so glad technology decided to work for us a little bit and that the coughing calmed down enough. Um, Hopefully, by next week, I'll be able to do a little sewing and talk without so much coughing. So I'm pretty encouraged. Crayola water soluble like school supplies. Yeah, these are just basic Crayola markers. This is a wacky Jackie marker, which our Australians know. This is a blue water erase marker from Australia. Um, so I'll use that. I have others from the United States. Drink more. Oh my word. I am drinking so much. I have 4 cups on my table right here, plus a can. Um, so far today, I've had pumpkin juice, which is apple cider and pumpkin puree, both from my farm. Like I pureed the pumpkin. It was delicious, nice and hot. I have tea. I've had uh, Diet Dr. Pepper. I've had seltzer. I've had water. Um, my tea I've had it's a Midsummer's Night tea from Harney. It is a floral Earl Grey, which is delightful. Let's see more comments. Hall's cough drops and honey tea. That would be great. Wine, sadly, no. I have a dodgy liver, so no wine for me ever, which is really sad. Whenever I'm coughing my full head off with my inhalers, just trying to catch a breath, my husband's like, "What can I get you?" And I will croak out the word vodka, and he'll say, "Something you're allowed to have, anything wet." So yeah, I'm drinking a lot. Um, let's see. I'll be running to the loo soon. I do that a lot. Yeah. Mm. So there's some links going on here, but you use your best advice. I don't have any rules for anything. How you quilt is how you quilt. I'm just going to give you the benefit of my experience and let you do what works for you. If you want to use friction pens, go ahead. If I'm going to quilt for my grandkids, something that they're going to play with in the chicken coop, and the quilt's not going to last the summer, I don't really care if there's a friction marker on it. But it's all what it's worth to you. So hopefully this week you will have some time to work on the shape of your feather, and now to work on the shape of the feather on the curve. If you've already done that little note card holder, try doing it on a border and see how that works for you. I recommend the picnic patch quilt because it's my favorite. It's my favorite quilt that I didn't design, and I will be making one of those shortly once I get off the sofa and finish. I'm knitting right now. This is a Hufflepuff scarf because Harry Potter. Oh, don't worry about the link. It's fine, Sarah. I don't have any rules here. So thank you all for tuning in. Come back to the Debbie Brown Quilts Machine Quilting Studio, Debbie Brown's Machine Quilting Studio Facebook group with questions, with pictures, with progress. I'd love to see your progress since I'm not making any, except walk into the bathroom and back and coughing. Yes, picnic patch is great for the feathered wreath, but I have something else for the feathered wreath later on. Angie, thank you. I have been sick since December 6th with the flu. My lungs shut down on December 24th. And I got a new course of medication last Wednesday, the 4th. So we're hopeful. I'm weaning off of some. So hopefully it's only on the way up. And I don't care if I'm running up and down stairs, but I would like to be able to walk to the bathroom without coughing. That would be nice. So thanks, everybody. And I will go have a meal prepped dinner, which is a leftover turkey breast from our Christmas turkey. Just rip that off. I made some stuffing with some old bread. I made mashed potatoes that my husband's going to have to mash when he gets home because I'm not strong enough, and gravy. So we've got a little bit of Thanksgiving Christmas dinner going tonight without me doing much. Happy quilting, everyone. Take good care of yourselves. Take good care of each other, and I appreciate the care you're taking of me as well. Look forward to the eventuality that I write a newsletter and send you the pattern. If you go to, if you want the cat quilt for Color Blocks 2023, it's up and ready to go. And I will upload the video on why I like to use an ultraviolet light when I quilt and how it works, because that's really cool. I'll put that in as the bobbin turns. Okay. Happy quilting, everyone. I will see you next Tuesday.